welcome. The setup for today is that we are going to do a brief introduction. We will quickly jump into introducing our panelists as well as the Q&A. We are here for you to answer your questions, so feel free at any time to start throwing those questions into the Q&A box. And we get to that portion, we will get to those. You can use the upvoting feature, which is a little thumbs up button in your Zoom panel, and that will help me know which questions are of the most interest to everybody here, and so we can make sure that we get to those. As I said, our students have a diverse range of interests and passions. They go on to various fields and industries. We're here today to talk about media entertainment, which actually is tied for our 5th most popular industry in terms of careers upon graduation. And we have a diverse and dynamic group of alums from the arts, media, entertainment world joining us today. With no further ado, I will let them introduce themselves. So why don't we start with, I'm just gonna go with who I see down my screen. So Mike, if you want to take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Great to be here with you virtually. My name is Mike. I just graduated from the GSB in June, which is kind of hard to believe that that's already the case. I went to WashU in St. Louis for undergrad. Did I freeze on your screen?
Yeah, we can hear you, but I think you're frozen. Oh, maybe Mike is having connection issues. Let's jump to Helen while he gets that sorted out.
Hey everyone, I'm Helen. I graduated in 2019 from the GSB. Before business school, I worked in sports at the National Basketball Association in strategy, and then now I work at Spotify. Yeah, I think that's, are we supposed to say anything else?
Nope, that's good. Steve?
Okay, cool.
Should I introduce myself?
Yep, quick intros.
Hi guys, my name is Alberto Santini. I'm from Mexico. I studied undergrad at Universidad Regiomontana in Mexico. I hold 2 bachelor's degree, and I got also a degree in arts and drama and entertainment. And before I joined the GSB, I was an actor, and I wanted to become an executive. So that's why I started to pursue my goal to enter to the GSB.
Awesome. Steve?
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Steve, class of 2007. Congratulations, by the way, to all of you. I believe all of you have been admitted, right? So,
no, sorry, this is prospects, Steve.
Oh, prospects. Okay, I'm sorry. So, well, future congratulations to those of you who can join the community.
Yeah, exactly.
I received my undergrad at Harvard, and prior to the GSB, I spent a couple of years in investment banking in New York. For Goldman Sachs, and then went to China for a couple of years to do a startup media company. I'm currently the Chief Growth Officer at Fox Corporation. And when I was at the GSB, I had actually no intent or desire to be in media, but I find myself there now, which sort of speaks to the preparation I think the GSB gives broadly to whatever you may want to pursue in the future. So that's me.
Awesome. Allie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Allie. I went to Stanford undergrad. I'm originally from California as well. And before the GSB, I worked in entertainment. I worked at Netflix. Then went to the GSB and just graduated in June, like Mike. And now I'm working at Masterclass, which is also adjacent to media in San Francisco.
Great. And Mike, we can see you now. So
I'm using my new work computer, which apparently has some issues, but hopefully that doesn't happen again. Yeah, so I graduated in Allie's class just a couple months ago. I went to WashU in St. Louis, was a film and finance major. I was always trying to figure out if I wanted to be on the business or the creative side of the industry. Did strategy consulting for a few years, then worked for an entertainment rental company in LA. We did the equipment for Coachella and camera rentals for movies and stuff like that. And then came to the GSB, and now just started a new job at Evolution Media Capital, which is CAA's investment bank.
Wonderful. So we've got great representation here. So if you guys are, feel free, if you have any questions for any of our specific panelists about their specific path, or just general questions, feel free to throw them in. I will kick it off with sort of a big question, which is, arts, media, entertainment. It's not the first thing that people think of when they think of someone with an MBA. So for you, I'll ask for this for everybody to kick off. What made you think of pursuing an MBA to begin with, and why Stanford? So let's start with Alberto.
Yeah, well, was very interesting, coming from Mexico, and I always wanted to be executive television. Since I was 10 years old, I was involved in getting programming content. I was developing my own content, whatever. So because my family is not related with the media, and I don't have anybody at that time to relate with the media when I finished university. I approached to a TV company, the leading TV company in Latin America, which is Televisa, because I wanted to pursue a career as an executive. At the end, I ended being an actor. There was a casting, and I thought, maybe this is the only opportunity I can get to get into the media, right? So there was 25,000 people online. So I was one of the 25 that they picked. Thanks God, I started to take some classes in the course. So at that point, I started to do soap operas, and I started to host some TV shows. And at that time is when I thought this is the time for me to pursue my MBA at Stanford University, so I can reach my goal since I was a kid to be an executive of the media entertainment company. So and that's why I started I decided to Stanford. I looked for different options, but Stanford had everything that I wanted. I even visited Harvard. I did everything. All the universities were beautiful. They were nice, very professional. But Stanford specifically, it has everything. At least for me. And my experience there was awesome.
Awesome. We love to hear that. Helen.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but eventually I become the CEO of the second largest Spanish television in the world, which is TV Azteca. So Stanford was the path, to get to my goal.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about sort of how Stanford prepared you for that career.
Yeah,
Helen, what about you in terms of, what made you leave the MBA? Why an MBA? Why this time? Why Stanford?
I was thinking about going to business school mostly because I wanted like a good 2-year time to be able to self-reflect and develop like leadership skills, soft skills. And I think that's also why the GSB was a clear choice for me too, because I had gone to undergrad business school. So I wasn't looking for hardcore like accounting, marketing, finance classes. And I also worked in finance before the MBA. So it was really like finding a program that I felt like I can develop personally and have those kind of soft skills in the classes like touchy-feely, doing talks at the GSB. All of those are really reasons that I felt like I can, where I felt like I could learn the most, grow the most, and get the most out of the 2 years. So.
And Steve, you came from investment banking, so an MBA may have been a more traditional path, but I'd love to hear why you chose Stanford, and then we'll talk a little bit about what made you do the pivot.
Yeah, maybe mine's a little bit more complex. I actually came to the GSB not with the media was the last thing I wanted to do probably. But my thesis for me going into the GSB was one, what an amazing group of caring, smart, and passionate people who want to change the world. And I think if you get 350, 400 people who think like that, the world will change. And so that was really the biggest draw for me. But as I sort of traversed the 2 years and did a couple of other things, my goal was actually to go into public service. I wanted to actually take the efficiencies of business and apply it to government processes and policy. And so one thing led to another. I had a little internship at the CIA's venture capital firm called InQtel when I was at the Bay Area, which opened my eyes to venture capital. Again, which I really didn't have any idea what venture capital was, to be honest with you, coming in, even though I was an investment banker. But I think really retrospectively, it's probably the best decision I've made in my life in terms of an academic training, because especially in media these days, and especially in the role I am in now, where I'm looking at growth opportunities for media, technology is such a key part of what we do. So whether it's a streaming platform or the user experience, or an algorithm to give you the best recommendations, all the media companies now are becoming and forced to become tech companies. And so I think just the nature of Stanford and where we are in Silicon Valley, and just the amount of resources and sort of insight you get from in the classroom and outside, I think is invaluable for what a media company should look like in 10 to 20 years, especially. So anyway, so it's a little bit of a retrospective on my decision, but looking back, I think there's no better place to prepare yourself for life in media because of that technology core that Stanford can offer you.
That's great. And Mike and Allie are two most recent grads. Who wants to jump in?
I'm happy to start. Yeah, so for me, I knew long-term I wanted to be a general manager in entertainment, for some sort of content business. And I knew to be a general manager, I'd need a broader skill set than what I was getting in consulting or in like a corporate strategy function. So things like, negotiations, some more finance experience, marketing, operations, those are some of the hard skills I wanted to build. And probably more importantly, I wanted to build more leadership skills. I'd managed a few people before, but I hadn't had a lot of experience like giving feedback, really managing a team, and Stanford's sort of soft skills, as Helen said, are probably the best program out there for that. So that really attracted me. Also, my boss at the time was a GSB alum, and he shared, all of his amazing experiences and made me really want to go.
Yeah, mine is very similar to Mike. I felt like I needed more of the hard skills because I wanted to be an executive in media. I was already in media, but I felt like I had majored in biology in college and didn't have a lot of the business foundation that I felt like I would need later on, and also wanted to sharpen and be more focused on my leadership and communication skills. And I feel like those 2 years were great time to do that. So same. And also in my team, there were quite a few GSB alums, so that definitely encouraged me.
Yeah. We're heavy on influencing more people in. So Braden asked actually a question that I had for you guys as well, which was, how has an MBA helped you in the entertainment industry, right? So what are some of the ways that you have seen the skills, the lessons, the education, the curriculum, have you seen that being of an MBA being applied in this space? This one I'll throw to anybody who wants to take that one.
Maybe I'll start. I think Mike and Ali mentioned it, but I think more than maybe any other business, media really is about people. It's about the creativity and how to draw out the intangibles in people for a creative and sort of the delightful output that gets to entertain and inform the world. And I think for me, I think Helen, you mentioned touchy-feely. It's kind of what we used to call this interpersonal dynamics force, where you're essentially in a small group of people who sign NDAs basically and are able to give you direct feedback about how you say things, what you say, and to a level and depth that cannot be paralleled by any other experience in my life. And that kind of soft skill training of people who care about you but are willing to give you candid feedback about so many different aspects of your communication style, etc. I think those are the skill sets at the end of the day that I rely on most, especially in the media business, where you have a lot of personalities and egos and creativity, and you just there's no sort of textbook way to handle things because every issue is so different. So for me, that was the most helpful sort of skill set I was able to build. And not only is it in that classroom, but you take those kinds of values outside the classroom as you interact with your classmates and the community at large. Stanford is a very open, sort of warm and caring group. And so I think those kinds of things stuck with me as I went into the media world. So that's what I would say.
Happy to quickly jump in. Totally agree with what Steve said. Another example, sort of the other end of the spectrum, is on hard skills. So I took Peter DeMarzo's financial modeling class the spring of my first year, which is like basically an investment banking training program. You do M&A models, you do LBO models, starting with like basics for people who have never really used Excel before. And so by the end of that class, I felt like I was pretty dangerous in Excel. And then when I went to my internships, I was like able to apply that right away, and I think do some pretty good work as a result. And no doubt that's helped me, get my job now, where I'm doing a lot of that, where before I didn't really have that classic training to be able to be confident in Excel.
Well, in my case, adding a little bit of what I has been saying, for me was once again coming from Mexico and learning and knowing that I was going to be sharing with peers from different parts of the world. It opened my view that what I can do coming to Stanford. So I learned a lot of things in Stanford, and you learn every single day. And at the end, it helped me. I wanted to become an executive, and I didn't have enough the background in finance and business. And I knew it, and I was ready to get to the next stage. So it was a challenge also for me. When I was in Mexico, they accepted probably like six Mexicans. I was one of them. And but yeah, I wanted also to start. It was in Silicon Valley. It was in '99. I'm older than you guys. So everything was coming along, with the internet, with everything. So Stanford was in Silicon Valley. So this is the place to be. And I didn't make a mistake, and that's why I decided to be there, and I learned a lot through my peers,
I think, sorry.
Go ahead, Ali.
Just because I recently switched jobs, so it's very fresh, is like, I think having an MBA allowed me to get a much higher paying role. Maybe not immediately after business school for sure, but then also like it just continues to build. And I think that was very evident in this most recent recruiting cycle. And then also while I was recruiting, I was able to basically email all the alumni that work at Spotify right now, and they were all willing to talk to me about the interview process, about their experience, etc. So like that GSB network, even though I had never met any of those people before, still lives on even though you graduate. And I think it gets stronger and stronger as more and more people graduate and join the network. So those are just a couple of examples of how the GSB continues to help me. I've only graduated 2 years ago, but it adds on over time, and I didn't even realize some of like the awesome like pull that it has even now. So yeah.
Speaking of recruiting, Mike and Ali, since you guys are most recent, sort of have gone through that process. Katie Pinmental asked a question about how was your recruiting experience different from maybe your classmates in other, consulting, finance, more traditional MBA industries, and how did the GSB support you through the recruiting process, and what was the most valuable resource? So
sure.
Ali,
Yeah, I can take it. So I would say for media and entertainment broadly, it can really vary. There are some recruiting processes from bigger media companies, like your tech companies like Netflix and Hulu, or your Disney, HBO, Warner, that have very set recruiting processes and look a lot like consulting and banking. They recruit on campus, they have a set deadline, and you kind of know the process pretty well, and the Career Center can help you a lot with that. My process was a little bit more focused on smaller companies, and that meant it was more self-led. So the way the Career Center supported me on that was My career advisor worked with me very closely on which alums I should reach out to in the industry, help me connect with them and what I should ask about and what other types of roles students before me have gotten in that industry. So that one was more me reaching out to people and finding opportunities, but I still got a lot of support from the Career Center.
Yeah, I totally agree with Ali's experience. I think for me, another element was I didn't really know what function I was looking for. Like I was doing a lot of research, including everything from like, more of the traditional like corporate strategy at Warner Brothers roles, but also like being the business person to a producer and seeing if I liked that kind of role, which is not structured. And that is totally just based on reaching out to folks. So I'd say I did like 80% of my search was reaching out to people proactively, working with my career advisor to figure out who would be good. And then the other 20% was postings on Career Hub and sort of more formal recruiting processes.
And Mike and Steve, you guys both alluded a little bit to the some courses, but both Coulter and Yusra are asking classes about what some of the most popular courses or student art or organizations are that students who are interested in arts, media, and entertainment might explore, as well as are there any classes at the GSB that are focused on media entertainment that gives people an opportunity to explore the creative side or get a holistic view of the industry. So open that one up to anybody who wants to chat about either courses or student clubs and activities.
Well, I would say something. I mean, it's funny, but one of my favorite courses at Stanford was the interpersonal dynamic, the touchy-feely class. I mean, sometimes people don't think about it, but you learn a lot, and during that class, I made my very close friends for life, and you understand how to manage more human resources once that you are in a position, that you are going to be handling. So that's one of my favorite courses. Most of the courses, finance, economy, well, you study as an undergrad, you have other opportunities, but those type of classes, at least for me, the touchy-feely class is funny, but that I have a very good memory for that one. That was my favorite class.
Yeah, I talk a little bit about the club side of things. So Ali and I were both on the leadership team of the Arts, Media, and Entertainment Club, which was impacted a little bit with COVID, but we still did a lot of fireside chats with executives. We did like 2 sessions that were like an LA trek. Normally we would fly to LA and meet with companies, but we did it all on Zoom. So we met with Netflix and Amazon and Spotify and sort of all the major players in the space. So that's more of like recruiting resources that we provide. We also did like social events and stuff like that. The other sort of entertainment related club that's less, I'd say, career oriented, but more fun is as I was one of the directors of the GSB show, which is an annual, normally a live play that we put on in front of 1,000 people, but because of COVID, we made a 2-hour movie with over 100 people in the cast and crew. So if you're interested in production or want to have a little more of a creative outlet, that was definitely the highlight of my GSB experience.
The GSB show is awesome. You should watch it on YouTube if you haven't.
It is on YouTube. Yeah. Highly recommend it. Mostly inside jokes.
There is a class that is, and the name has evolved, so I don't know what it's called anymore. But it's Professor Bertelman at the It's about corporate strategy, and the theme of the class is, in a large corporation where you've got sort of a core business and you have new ideas, how do you get innovation through in large corporations? And the lesson from that class I've taken with me in all the past like 4 jobs I've had, including this one, of how do you fight against the machine within your own corporation, no matter how innovative that company is. Once you get to be a size, there's sort of a core function and core business. But in the media or tech space, there's always, you've got to disrupt yourself. And so there's some great frameworks and through guest speakers at the CEO at the board level, guest speakers coming in through the whole quarter, talking about how to get innovation through large corporations. And that's an invaluable one that I take with me even to this day.
Another thing, if I may say something, I'm sorry. Another thing that was very interesting was that when I was at Stanford. Remember, I was in '99, class. So right now there are more classes and new courses. But at that time, not just the faculty staff and the professor that were teaching us, but also they invited Bill Gates, they invited Warren Buffett once in my economy class. So that type of personalities, leaders or in those fields, it motivates all the students, walking into your class, Warren Buffett, it's like, wow. Or Bill Gates went to give a speech over there, so that is also very valuable for me.
Ali, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I completely agree with Walter. A lot of my favorite classes were just very focused on guest speakers. And the two I'd mention is there's one called Leadership in the Entertainment Industry, and that brings in every type of role in the entertainment industry, from the business side, people who are C-level, Warner, Disney, also to producers, actors, different types of people, to ask them about their leadership experience in the entertainment industry. And it's basically a Q&A format where students ask these great leaders any questions. And then one of my other favorite classes is called Managing Growing Enterprises. And that's really focused on developing you as a people manager. And I've been using that a ton in my job recently, just how to give feedback to someone, how to hire, how to think about building your team. Just very great takeaways from that class. And that was a lot of speakers coming in and talking about how they did it in their own companies.
And I will do a plug too for, so we really encourage interdisciplinary learning here at the GSB. So all of our students are encouraged to take classes across all of Stanford's campus. So you can actually take a class in any school at Stanford and get credit that goes towards your degree. So if you were interested in something in like the creative writing or, media arts or something like that, it's somewhere else, you're welcome to actually take that class and get that exposure. Nicole, I love her question. Can you describe your best and worst day at the GSB? And Alberto, was it when you met Warren Buffett? I'm kidding.
No. Actually, because they were a lot of guest speakers, not just in the auditorium, but also in the class. It was amazing, everybody that I met, And but yeah, that was one of the good things that I had when I was there. But what is the best days? I mean, is when after exams, that we made parties, we never forgot that, because 1 week, 2 weeks prior to that, we were working so hard, to get the best grades. But the worst part that when I was there is because the first year I was doing so hard, to be one of the first top 10 in the class, and I was like studying. So the second year I find out that I could have meeting more people and having more friends. And I waste that time, So the second year, of course, I was just normal. I tried to build friendship with everybody, and I was not pressured to be one of the top 10, So my recommendation is just to relax, study hard, but take advantage of those 2 years that are wonderful, and the people you're going to be meeting there, they are going to be wonderful, for the rest of your life.
Anyone else want to take the Steve?
No, the worst day is when you had to get out of Stanford, the last day, because I think we are in such a unique experience. But I think, you alluded to this, John, it's a lot of it is, Stanford, if you make a parallel to software, it's like open source software, versus a closed software, where Stanford's got so many resources, and it's interdisciplinary, and you've got wonderful people. It's just like you have all of these ingredients, and I think Stanford may not be the best place for somebody who wants to sort of get fed an institutionalized, recipe for some output. Maybe there's some better schools for that. But if you want to explore and sort of create, that song, sort of my way, like if you have a vision of what you want to make, I can't think of a better place than Stanford that can give you that support and resource. And the alumni, now having been an alumni, I guess I'm a little younger than Alberto and a little older than some of the others, but I've been on the receiving end of emails of people wanting to talk to me or getting advice, etc. And I can tell you, I always write back. And I think I'm reciprocating my experience, 10 years ago or whatever, that it was me asking for help, and I got every call back as well. And I think that's the kind of camaraderie at the school and after the school, and that's something very, very special, especially in a school that's so resourceful yet so small relatively, that can create that kind of an environment, which I think is very unique to us.
Exciting. And if I may add something as well that is very interesting, very valuable. It was amazing, like in every single class that we have the same case analysis, but the paths that every single study group reached their goal was different. So you were learning how my friend, my classmate from India, or my classmate from Germany, or my classmate from Argentina were doing the same case analysis, but with different approaches. And that is very valuable as well. Open your mind, open your options, when you are in a position that you have to make decisions. In addition to the friendship, of course.
Okay, so pivoting back to then some questions about career preparation. So I'm scrolling through some of the questions here that I'm seeing in the Q&A. So for those of you who made an industry pivot, so I will call out Steve, Mike, and Helen, I think. What resources or what specifically was crucial in terms of your GSB experience that helped you do that?
I think for me, what I found really helpful, even though I was kind of pivoting from sports to media, music, more traditional entertainment, and I found the career services really helpful. Grace is amazing. I still email her to this day, and she was able to kind of, I think Ali touched upon this, or just like kind of talk you through what you're thinking and give you options, connect you with alumni that have been going through this or are working in that field. And I found that super helpful. So I think that for me was probably one of the most helpful. And then I think in general, just the network. Again, like during business school, I used that as an opportunity to talk to as many people as possible in all different roles within the media and entertainment industry. And a lot of those conversations, obviously didn't go anywhere besides just teaching me about what they did. And I think that helped a lot to understand what roles I wanted to do, what roles I didn't want to do, because I also pivoted roles. I worked in strategy before, and now I work in partnerships and business development, which I had no skill set for, but was able to kind of understand that role and really develop that through the role itself. So I think it really just opens opportunities and gave me the experience to learn as much as possible and use like the GSB as a reason to do so.
And I think on that, like you can pivot your function, you can pivot your industry or both. If you're pivoting function, the CMC, the Career Center, does a really good job of, they have like panels pretty early on where you can talk to alumni about like the pivot functionally. And so that's applicable across a lot of different industries. On the industry side, I think the alumni network was just really invaluable, as Helen said. And just one example for me is my GSB interview was with someone in the entertainment industry in LA. I think they try to pair you with someone who's like, has your, aspirations or has achieved your aspirations in some ways. And so once I got in, I stayed in touch with him, and he was really helpful for me and introduced me to some other people. So like alumni are everywhere, and as Steve said earlier, like everyone's always responsive and helps you sort of think through different options.
And Steve, what about you? Because as you've mentioned a couple times, you came in from investment banking and media was sort of the last thing on your mind. What resources were crucial in your career trajectory, if you will, then for post GSB?
Yeah, no, I think there's a recurring theme here. I think the alumni resource, and not that there's just an alumni resource, but that they're very responsive and engaged, right? Because it's one thing to have a bunch of names on the yellow pages, but you know, it's another thing to actually be able to engage and get help. So for me, they were just there at every turn in terms of my serendipitous walk to where I am today. There's always seems to be some GSB resource that's sort of critical for me at the time. So I try to do the same thing in giving back now. But yeah, it is that engaged alumni network. And the fact is, if there isn't somebody directly helpful to you, there is, 99.9% chance that somebody can put you in touch with that person from the Stanford network. So whether it's the first or second degree connection, I think just Stanford is unparalleled in the way that it has its tentacles and deep quality introductions to what you need to and to where you need to get to. So I think that was really it for me.
Marielle has a question. I think it's a good one. Thanks for asking. If any of you were able to personalize your trajectory at the GSB towards exploration, if you didn't know you'd end up in arts, media, entertainment, or towards AME if you knew that that's what you wanted to do. So like if you, any of you guys want to maybe go through sort of what your 2 years experience was like and how you were able to sort of personalize or customize that path via, into arts, media, and entertainment, and in what different ways?
Yeah, I'm happy to start with that. So, I was coming from a production services company, so a little bit on the outskirts of the industry in some ways. And I wanted to try out different things across the industry. And so I did want to try out being like a business person to a producer. And there's a GSB alum who's a pretty well-regarded film producer. He did The Kids Are All Right and a few other sort of more indie movies. And so I did like a part-time internship with him, helping him raise money for his production company and also like reading scripts and doing some creative. So that was like a really easy way for me to test that out. I also, sort of like everybody else at Stanford, had some aspirations for doing a startup. And I actually did a class with Ali called Startup Garage, where we tested out an idea in the entertainment industry, which was really fun and really insightful. And I also interned with an early stage streaming company last summer that was, Series A, so very early stage, and got sort of the streaming experience as well as the startup experience. And then finally, I got to the banking side of things, where I did like a part-time internship in the spring right before I graduated with Evolution. And so I guess across the 2 years, I was able to do early stage startup, streaming, production, and investment banking, all sort of related to entertainment. So I think business school is really the only time you can take that kind of exploration.
Those are great examples. Anyone else want to talk about their personal path or through the GSB?
Well, in my case, the summertime, both of them, I decided to try the not-for-profits. So I was involved with to doing not-for-profits in summertime, still working as an intern in another entertainment company. I decided to search to see if that also was something that would be interesting to me. But no, my priority at the end was entertainment. However, it was a great decision that my summertime I spent trying to do not-for-profits with different companies. So it was very valuable for me as well.
And then I'm just going through some of these questions. We have a few more minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and take one more here. Actually, this is, Janetta asked something that Steve, you had touched upon, which was, how does your MBA prepare you for job opportunities as entertainment business continues to merge with tech companies, streaming platforms like with Studio Amazon, MGM, Disney Fox, etc. And Steve, I'll let you start first, but anyone, on the panel, if they have an opinion on that, feel free to weigh in.
Sure. No, I think it's very relevant, and I think there is an edge with a Stanford brand for sure, because I think, and it may be different in 5 years or 10 years, but right now, from now to the next 5 years, I think entertainment generally is shifting. And I remember when people were asking the question about, is Netflix a technology company or a media company? Because in the beginning, Netflix talked very, very geeky, right? Very tech about the algorithms and, the streaming infrastructure. But now, you hear the latest earnings call, they sound like a studio, right? And tech is just a part of what they do to enable great content to get there. So, the traditional media companies like a Disney or a Fox, and of course, Warner and all of the different, there is no better time in my view to get into entertainment than now, because there's so much disruption. And when there is disruption, there's opportunity. That's too bad for people who have a lot of vested interest in the current status quo, but it's a great thing for new people wanting to take a new foothold in an evolving area. So I would say, if you're interested in entertainment, this is the best time to do it. And I argue Stanford's the best place to prepare you for that, because you have a lot of tech people running around who don't really understand media. And you also have a lot of media people who don't understand technology at all. And right now, if you position yourself well at Stanford, you sort of already go in with a tech brand credibility. And if you can fortify that with content, that's a pretty tough combination to sort of beat if you're going up against somebody with those kinds of backgrounds. Now, it's more than what's on your resume, of course. You've got to sort of go deeper into those insights and what does that mean. But every tech company is thinking about media in some way, whether it's their own brand or actual content. And every media company is talking about tech because they have to survive in this new world. So that's my pitch for why Stanford for media. And I absolutely believe that.
That's a great answer, Steve. Anyone else?
Well, let's just drop the mic here. Or
Yeah.
Okay.
How's anyone supposed to follow that? No.
I'll just add that there are a lot of people from the tech side of media companies, like Netflix's like product org, that come to a lot of classes and talk about the tech side of things and the business side from like a tech lens. So you will get some of that exposure too, which is like for marketing, we talked about, Netflix's approach to, user interface where it's customizing what titles are displayed based on who's watching. Like that kind of knowledge is really unique too, that you get at the GSB.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, well, I will add something. I'm coming from free TV, and you know how right now the tech and the streaming are taking over. Mostly in Mexico and Latin American countries. But I think this is following up, Steve. This is a great opportunity. This is the right moment, to be in Stanford, because you got both. You got the tech, and you got the experience with technology, and you got the experience also in the media, in the linear production or whatever you want to call it. And but it's very important. It's very important because right now the world is merging into tech and media together. It's not like it used to be the television before. So I think this is the right moment, to study an MBA in Stanford. I think people that will get exposed, to all these opportunities. In my case, I remember right now when I was there, I met Gerard Levin. At that time was the CEO of Time Warner. And he gave me an offer, and it was my first year at Stanford. And he said, "I want you with me." And also in my not-for-profit marketing class, I met the director of sales for Univision, and he connected me with. He talked about me with the owner of Univision, and the owner of Univision called me to set a meeting with him, and at the end I ended working for Univision. So, but at that time, it was not the streaming. It was nothing like that. So, no, I wish I could go back to Stanford now, at this time, and start again, because it's a great opportunity. This is the moment.
Yeah, we love hearing these stories from you guys to share, because there's the academic curriculum and experience, of course, but then there's also just sort of all of those serendipitous moments, right, that happen and make the GSB super special. We have a little bit less than 10 minutes left. We have maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes. So what I thought was I'd go around to each of our wonderful panelists here, and if you guys don't mind, leaving off with any tips, considerations, anything that these, that the people joining us today can expect if they were here at the GSB, any sort of final words of advice or wisdom for those tuning in today?
Well, I will start. I would say that no matter what background do you have, no matter what was your previous experience, I mean, there is always a plus. There is always great to have an MBA. And you guys should also do some search in the universities you would like to consider to take your MBA. But definitely Stanford will be one of the first choices once that you do your search. But in my case, it was very prestigious to be an actor and pursuing an MBA. And so I had a lot of challenges, even at home, and my dad was a rancher. So what are you going to do with an MBA? You stay here, you already have a job, so no matter what your background is, and just if that is your goal, go for it. And Stanford, I think, will be the first choice, the best choice.
Steve, do you want to go next?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I've got a 2.5-year-old in the background. So
Yeah.
if you hear little noises, that's my daughter. I think I'm just trying to think, if I were to get in a time machine and go back to the GSB, what kinds of things would I tell myself? And the first, I'd maybe 2 things. One is so cliche, and people said that to me in my undergrad, people said that to me in the GSB, but it's about, now I have the benefit like Alberto has, I draw the trajectory of my classmates in 2007, and I fast forward 14 years and see what they're all doing now. They're doing amazing things, and they're incredible people. And I guess I wish I had spent more time also to develop even deeper, even wider friendships with my classmates. And, whether it's Stanford or any other top tier business school, you'll have, of course, great people. But I think at Stanford, you're going to have very special people, as I said, who are going to change the world for the better. And so, taking that time out, because when you're in it, you're going to be in the thick of things, and it's just overstimulating because there's just so many things going on. But to sometimes slow down and really invest time into friendships, I think would be something I would tell myself, number one. And then number two, some of the folks I've been most amazed by are people who take big pivots. And, whether it's like a Navy SEALs guy coming in and, becoming whatever, CEO of a completely different industry that has nothing to do with defense. It's just incredible. And, as some of you guys said, the MBA is the most powerful reset button anybody can give you. So no matter what you were doing before the MBA, you have this opportunity to go completely differently. And I think we live in very exciting times. And, you know, you have 2 years, 24 months. If you know exactly what you want, you can chart a path to when the 24 months comes, then what company or what role do you want to be? There's so much there for you to actually do that. Or if you don't know what you want to do and you want to have the serendipitous walk, Stanford's also an amazing place to do that, to kind of continue to talk to people and get advice and sort of let opportunities take you within your broad framework of your vision. So anyway, I would say for either of those models, whether you know exactly what you want to do or you have no idea what you want to do, you know, I think having a place like Stanford, you know, talking to alums and talking to your classmates, sort of corollary to number one, that's what my word of advice would be. And there are so many exciting companies that would love to have a Stanford MBA join their ranks, whether it's to, you know, whatever, clean up the kitchen or do corporate strategy or both in the same day. You know, there's so much opportunity. So what an exciting time to be in the MBA program.
Steve, don't forget about the weather as well.
Yeah.
Great, sunny weather. You won't find any more places, you know.
That's right. That's right.
Mike, Helen, and Allie, any parting words for our guests today?
Yeah, I'm happy to go. I would say come into the experience very open and say yes to a lot of things. So be very open to learning about yourselves, very open to meeting people who are very different from you and you've never met before. Say yes to all the dinners that people invite you to, plan things to meet a lot of people. Just come in like ready to experience a lot of things you haven't before, because that's what it's all about. Be really ready for that.
I guess I'll just stay on the admissions process, which is obviously stressful in every school you apply to. You know, especially for me, I didn't have any big brands on my resume where I could just have that and knew that would help me get in. And that's okay. I mean, I think like GSB really wants to know what your story is. And if you've done things that show your story and you can tell your story, everyone on this Zoom has a shot of getting in. I did not think I would get in. And so just remember that and like really take the time to reflect about like what matters to you and who are you and what do you want to do, and try not to get caught up in the forums and what your classmates do or other people you're working with that are doing that have bigger names on their backgrounds, because there's a lot more that goes into it than that.
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice for the admissions process is like spend a lot of time really thinking about why you want to go to business school, what you want to get out of it, and then stay true to yourself in terms of like, don't write an essay because you think this is what GSB wants to hear. Like they can probably smell through that. Like you should definitely reflect and write about what truly matters to you and truly why, and that should be more than enough to, you know, create a story that resonates with people. So I think that's really important. And then, yeah, when you're at the GSB, be really intentional with your time because it really, really flies by. So, so say yes to things, but also be respectful of your own time and energy. And I like to like have a list or have like goals or whatever and check back on them, because time flies and then you're like, what happened? And you want to make sure you're getting the most out of your 2 years too.
So thank you to all of our panelists who joined us today. Thank you for those of you guys who tuned in. Remember, this is just the start of your journey. If you are ready to get started, we are ready for you. We have a ton of more events like these coming up throughout July, August, September, including Application Week. So speaking to Mike and Helen's handful of tips about admissions, towards the end here, we actually have an entire week of programming and workshops the first week of August that help you put your best foot forward. So if you guys are thinking about applying, I encourage you to tune in for those. But yeah, thank you again for everyone on the Zoom today, and we will hopefully see you guys soon.